Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the Essential Zodiac podcast. I'm your host, Cynthia McNulty.
And I'm Audrey Fannin.
So today we are going to be talking about two topics. Again, it's the new moon in Libra and the Autumn Equinox, or for all my pagan tribe out there, Mabon. Now, just a reminder for all you September babies, the time to order your solar return is growing short. The offer expires on October 1st. So go ahead and get your order in. We can always schedule the consultation for a later date. That is not a problem, but you do want to make sure you get your order in before it expires. So, okay. On to the new moon in the sign of Libra. Libra is the opposite sign of Aries. Aries, starts the whole year. It's the first day of spring when the sun moves into Aries. Aries is powerful, initiatory energy. It is me first. It's ruled by Mars, so it's very me first. Well, the counterbalance to that is our friend the Libra. Libra is the scales. It is the only symbol in the entire zodiac that's a thing and not a person or an animal or whatever. So I always found that interesting. But it fits. Libra is about compromise. Libra is the diplomat. Libra wants everyone to have a piece of the pie, whereas Aquarius, which is another humanitarian sign, is more, okay, we need to feed everyone with that pie. We need the greater good. So you may not get a piece, but we need these other people to get it. So Libra strives more for collaboration and cooperation. And it's about relationships. Libra rules the seventh house on our wheel, and the seventh house is all about partnerships, not just romantic, but business partnerships as well, best friends. Friends that you consider, your family of choice. So Libra brings order and balance into our lives. Unlike Aries, which is all about fire and brimstone, Libra then comes along and says, okay, let's calm down. Let's calm down and let's all kind of work together. So Libra helps us to establish peace with those around us. And good Lord, we can really use some of that peaceful energy right now. Since it's a new moon, here is where we make our plans. Here is where, we begin the ball rolling. A good way of using the new moon energy would be to make a plan here and now with the new moon in Libra. Figure out what you're going to do and then work on it till you get to the full moon in Libra, which would be during the I don't know the exact date, but it would be when the sun is in Aries. So between March 22nd and April 22nd, something like that. We can look that up and we'll be aware of that. So the ideal time to work on your diplomatic skills, your negotiating skills is now. If you ever thought about wanting to take a class for that this would be an excellent time to do that. Like if negotiations are part of your job, and you don't feel too confident, take a class, take an acting class, whatever, to get your confidence up. So that would be a very good use of this energy. This new moon brings creativity and freshness into our lives, really more specifically into our relationships. This moon is definitely focused on relationships. It can also show you where maybe there needs to be some changes in your relationships as well. The new moon is all about new beginnings. So are your relationships fulfilling for you? Sometimes it's hard to let go, but I always tell my clients, you deserve the best. You deserve the best. And if your relationships are lacking or, completely one-sided, that is really something that you need to take seriously and do something about. Also, oh yes, negotiations, I said, are very important during this moon. And we get help from Jupiter because this new moon, is opposite Jupiter on the wheel. Jupiter is all about abundance, excess, also about our spirituality and our values. So, this might be a good time to create a more balanced life, bring in more spirituality or go after that promotion. It's not me first energy, but it's energy that we need to take care of ourselves. So that is definitely a beneficial aspect, the new moon and Jupiter working together. So we're going to take a little break here. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the autumn equinox.
Visit EssentialZodiac.com to learn more about the solar return special Cindy mentioned earlier. You'll find the Happy Birthday offer under the Current Promotions tab. And while you're there, sign up for the monthly Skywatch Journal and take a look at the Patreon member levels perks to help support production of this podcast. For example, at the Sun member level, you'll receive a monthly Astro Tarot reading. Back to you, Cindy.
Thank you, Audrey. So, on to the fall equinox or autumn equinox, or Mabon, has many names. So the fall equinox arrives on Thursday, September 22nd at 9:04 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere is a whole nother ballgame, but we're going to talk about the Northern Hemisphere. This is an astronomical event that marks the start of autumn. The word equinox comes from the Latin word equus, meaning equal, and nox, night. So the spring equinox and the autumn equinox, day and night, are equal in length. And now from this point forward, the daylight will start getting shorter. The equinox is when the sun crosses what we call the celestial equator, and that is an imaginary extension of the Earth's equator line in space. So the equinox occurs precisely when the sun's center passes through this line. And for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, when the sun crosses the equator, going from north to south, this marks the autumn equinox. When it crosses south to north, it marks the vernal equinox or the spring equinox, which will occur in March. So Mabon is a pagan Sabbath. It's one of the 8 Sabbats on the pagan calendar. Well, all the Sabbats are important, but this is about the energy I've been talking about is letting go. Take care of your spiritual garden. There's 3 harvest festivals, the first one being Lunasa, August 1st. Now we have Mabon, and then we'll have Samhain or Halloween in October. So this is a harvest festival. Now, what you have to do is imagine life back in the day, especially in the Celtic countries. In September, it's already getting chilly. Now, I grew up in the Northeast, so come around September, the nights could be pretty nippy, and it was definitely sweater weather. And, sometimes Mom and Dad had to pop on the heat, in September when, man was in its infancy and, the crops were, full and ripe and harvested. They noticed it's getting colder, they knew nothing was going to grow. So they would get together as a community because it would be probably the last time they'd be able to get together to talk about community issues, get married, negotiate trade deals, whatever. And they, of course, would have, big plates of food, things like that, things that they knew were not going to make it through the winter, that they may not have had room enough to store. So everybody had this, big bonfire and all this celebration, because before you knew it, it was going to snow and you were going to be snowed in, and that was going to be it till spring. And, everybody had different rituals and things like that they would do. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that the Celts did not celebrate Mabon until the invasion of the Scandinavians. They made it more of a holiday than the early English did. Traditionally, when we have a Mabon celebration, we're beginning to shed, what no longer works, lets us, prepare for the spring. If you think about it, the harvest festivals that we still enjoy today got their early origins at the festivals for Mabon. So there was always prizes for the prize pig and the biggest watermelon, and, it was a happy occasion. And we still do that today. So when you're going to your harvest festival, you can thank, the early Celts and Scandinavians, because it was their idea to begin with.
I grew up in the farmlands of Ohio, and the county fair was the biggest event of the year.
I bet it was. Everybody making their jams and jellies and pies and cakes for judging and
the pig.
Yeah. I mean, our fair here, I think it's in October. Same thing. You have the midway, you have the rides and all the crazy food and everything, but you also have the animal judging and the fruits and vegetables and whatnot. I mean, it is fun. It's a fun day. Also, while you're looking at Mabon, it's a good time to set your intentions that involve decrease or reduction. So let's say you have some unhealthy habits or some beliefs that are really not doing you any good. Now is the time to take a good hard look at them and release and let them go. Now, I have a couple of fun ways to celebrate the season. One would be to host a bonfire if you're able, for friends and family. Bring the kids, make s'mores. Just have a fun gathering of your friends and relatives. Decorate your porch. A lot of people do that with pumpkins and hay and straw. And, very festive. It puts you in the holiday spirit. Write down your blessings for the year in a journal, and you can reflect on them. During the dark days of winter, when there's nothing to do, you can be, it was pretty good. I've never done this with my kids, and now they're too big, but go apple picking. That's a fun thing to do. Have a picnic. We here in the Southeast, we can picnic kind of a bit longer than our friends in the Northeast. So, take advantage of that, even if it doesn't have to be elaborate, just you and your friends, you and your kids, husband, sandwiches and soda, and just enjoy nature. Well, a big thing, and I try to get this done quarterly, is to clean your house and get rid of stagnant and negative energy. Open the windows and let it air out. We don't open our windows much anymore because we, obviously air conditioning and heat and all that. But there are, particular times during the year that you can do that. And early fall is one. It's good to get, fresh air. So do that. Open up your house. And then you can host a potluck, a Mabon potluck. I always thought that potlucks are fun and not too much of a burden on the hostess. But, everybody just get together and bring your favorite food and just be together. Maybe it'll heal some of the rifts that we've been experiencing for many years now. Maybe if we reach out, it's a start. It's a start. But so those are my suggestions. Hey, if you think of anything else, drop me a line on my email, ezpodcast@yahoo.com, and we'll talk about it in the next podcast. Our next episode is going to be the full moon in Aries, and that is going to air on October 7th. So thank you for listening. And remember, with astrology, you can chart your life's course.
You can find Essential Zodiac on your favorite podcast sites and also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as YouTube, and of course at essentialzodiac.com. We hope you'll subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends. The Essential Zodiac podcast is produced at Muddy Creek Studios.